Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, significant events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. As we go through life, we are fortunate when we meet people with a deep passion to make the world a better place. They are the ones that will leave the comfort of their homes to go to another part of the world to change lives. With us today is Karen Scheeringa-Parra, the founder and executive director of Hearts in Motion, and Mike Loughmiller of Prompt Ambulance. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting us.
You guys don't look like you just, you got a little sun maybe.
A little color.
From a little color from being in Central America.
Yes.
So tell me real quickly where you just were and when that happened, when was that?
We were working in Zacapa, Guatemala, which is near the eastern border of Guatemala, close to Honduras. And we were there in July and did a medical trip, and Prompt sent a few people with us, and it was a great experience. We took physicians, we did fireman training, we did construction projects.
So how long were you there?
We were there for 10 days, and Prompt Ambulance supplied myself and 2 other EMTs to assist Karen and her group and do some training for the fires, such as he said, and so we did some training for midwives and students just as well.
So was Mike useful?
Yes, he was a Sherpa.
He was a Sherpa?
Yes, he did.
That means you carry a lot of stuff?
You carried a lot of things.
Every morning, we got up early. The first thing you had to do was load up all the vehicles.
There you are.
And there's lots of equipment to carry back and forth. And you pretty much just made a train line every morning, passed it up, and they loaded it. And we took off to some remote location that Karen had planned for us to go for the day.
Well, I'm going to get more into the trip a little bit, but tell me, because I think our audience always likes a little bit of a story. So, I mean, tell me maybe the highlight or just something that happened on this trip that really touched you, meant something to you.
I love to go and visit the villages, because a lot of the villages that we go to on these trips are hours away from where we stay each day in our hotel, and we take trips up into the mountains, and we can go 2 or 3 hours up into the mountains, and you see people who have never had medical attention before.
So was there a specific village this time, or a specific group of people you saw that really touched you, or was important?
Well, it's a group of people who are so excited because they hadn't gotten medical services before, and every once in a while we encounter a village that just hasn't had anybody been there, and it was that way this trip, and we saw people that had never been seen by visiting medical teams or anything before, so it was a unique for us.
So when you talk about a village in Guatemala, I mean, you're talking about 100 people, 500 people?
Well, when we do a clinic in a village, we go every morning and set up in a different village. But quite often during the week, we'll see 1,500 people easily.
Wow, in one village?
No, we'll do 300 or 400 people a day in a village.
Okay.
So there are lines when we get there. They know we're coming. We advertise ahead of time by sending people up into the villages.
Wow.
And they're waiting for us when we get there.
So what really hit you on this? Is this the first trip you've made?
It's the first trip we've made with Hearts in Motion. Prompt Ambulance has been involved with Hearts in Motion for a number of years, but we never really sent any representatives along to do some volunteer work. And
so you were the first guinea pig?
Yeah,
oh, Sherpa.
Yeah, he was a Sherpa.
Sherpa and guinea pig. But like I said, there was 3 of us, the 2 of the young ladies who went along just as well with me. And I was really concerned that I was not going to be as useful as I thought I needed to be. And I found that not to be true at all. Any skill you have is necessary when you go on a trip with Hearts in Motion. And
so what part really touched you or really had an impact on you on this trip?
Well, I think the simplest and easiest thing that I observed was we live in a land of plenty. We have many, many things here. We say we have nothing. We still have a lot of stuff. We eat every day. We drink fresh water. We have sanitary conditions. You go to some of these villages that Karen just spoke about, they have no running water. They have no sanitation. They have no clean water. They hardly have the clothes that they wear on their back, and they live in homes that were just pieces of junk they picked up on the side of the road and built a home out of. And when they say they have nothing, they actually have nothing, and that was a big impact on me.
So how big is this team, Karen? I mean, how many people were part of this?
This team was about 90 people.
We had 91, I believe.
91 people.
91 people.
From all across the United States. And they come from universities, churches, hospitals, and volunteer.
How do you coordinate that? So every morning, I mean, I take it you went as groups to different locations. So how does that kind of divide down? Is that end being like 5 teams? Or
we have
6?
field directors who prepare for us when we get there, and we break up into, I think there were 4 or 5 different groups. We had eyeglasses also. That was another thing that we did. And every morning we had different vans that would go to different communities, and they're all, like I said, in advance. They know that we're coming, so they can prepare. But it's quite the coordination to get everybody going in the morning and get breakfast for 90 people and out the door. And
so are you on the same team every day? I mean, once you're kind of formed up, you're the same group?
For 3 or 4 days in a row, I was on the same team, but there's several projects that had to be completed just as well. So I did some construction work along with some emergency medicine training.
Wow. Who coordinates all this?
I have field directors in Guatemala who work for us and who have been working for us for years, and they're Guatemalan nationals who I first used as translators. They speak English, and I used them as translators in the beginning, and they're phenomenal people who are so loyal to this because they see the change that's been made. This year is our 31st year in Guatemala, and so we've got a little bit of a reputation that we have built in the community, and people know us, and it's been a ride.
Probably more than a little bit of a
little
reputation,
bit.
wouldn't you think? 31
Yes.
years?
Yes, we have a
I don't
lot.
know. Makes me wonder what kind of reputation you might have. Does this get back to the red hair story?
It may get back to the redheads.
Because you were making some comment about how nice she looks on this brochure with the red hair.
I was, because she mentioned that she was a blonde, but had changed her hair color to red because it made her look more professional in Central America.
So is that part of what you have to do?
That's very true. I wanted to look a little bolder. And when I started working in Guatemala, I was a blonde. And the perception of blondes from television were the Marilyn Monroe symbol. And I wanted to cut that quick and show that I could hold my own with a country full of incredible macho men leaders. And
dark-haired people then too. So
So
the blonde thing.
when I come into the airport, everybody knows the redhead is there. So there are not a lot of redheads in the airport. You can pick me out. I don't have a problem finding my transportation ever.
So did you have to do anything with your hair when you went this time?
I just had to cut it short because it was very hot.
So why did you even go on this trip?
Well, my goal was, like I said, just to be helpful to Karen and her organization. And I just felt that this was something that was very self-rewarding for me, and I think I actually took away more than I actually gave.
But you could have stayed at home and be helpful, because I know your wife, she could have used your help, right? So
well, that
you
is
could have
absolutely
stayed home
true.
and helped grow. So what's up?
Yeah,
You would go.
It's the self-fulfillment, and I've known Karen for 30 years, and we've known our organization for the same amount of time. And like I said, we've been helpful in the past with products and equipment, but we've never sent people to help her out. And our vision of Hearts in Motion is this little retail shop in Munster, Indiana. That was all we really had of the vision of there until we went to Guatemala and seen the scope of the work that she does there. It's very, very large. And she's a very well-known person down there, and she serves the most needy people possible.
So you are a well-known redhead down there, evidently, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Maybe.
So you're the founder of this organization,
Yes,
right?
I am.
31 years ago. So what possessed you to put Hearts in Motion together?
It wasn't intentional. It was quite by accident. I had adopted, I'm the mother of 12. I have 12 children, 11 of whom are adopted. And I had
It took
adopted
a while to say that. See, everybody's at home going, 12 children.
12 children.
You know,
Yeah,
you like to let it sink in a little bit,
well,
right?
It's a job.
So 11 are adopted.
11 are adopted, and this whole adventure started when I adopted my daughter from Korea 31 years ago and went to pick her up and met a woman that was coming back from Korea with several children that were very, very sick, who she had found and wanted to help them, and was bringing those children to the United States for free medical care. And I met her and I was so impressed with that. I thought, I could help a child. I'm going to be home now and I can do that. And she found a child that needed open heart surgery. And I worked for months and months and months to get organized to bring that child to the United States for free medical care. And just a few days before the child was to come, she died. And I was devastated, and I called the woman back, and she said, I don't know anybody right now in Korea that needs help, but someone read my story on a newspaper and told me about a child that was born in Guatemala without a face. Might you be interested in helping that little girl? And so I did, and I went to Guatemala weeks later to pick her up, and didn't know anything about Guatemala, had never traveled internationally. And I brought her to the United States, and so many people in the community watched as we went through these surgeries.
What does it mean that you don't have a face?
She was born with a very, very severe bilateral cleft. So her face, just below her eyes, all the way to her cheekbones, was open. And so she had to have a lot of, and she's had 12 surgeries. It was a long process just before she could be returned home to her family. And it opened a door. I saw in Guatemala something I'd never seen in the United States. I was from Northwest Indiana. I had never seen poverty like that. The people die when they don't have food. There are not shelters, and there are not food pantries, and there aren't, you know. Now,
is Guatemala the only place you go?
No, we also work in Peru and Ecuador, and I worked for years in Colombia and Mexico. There are other it's Central and South America.
So what do you mean when you say she's kind of formidable force when you see her down there operating? How do people react to her?
Well, she takes a commanding lead, and she has a passion for her work, and it shows when she speaks. When we travel to these remote locations, she's known, which, you know, they know her face, and they know of her organization. They know that she's only there to produce good welfare for their people. It's nutrition, medicine, food, clean water. It's something she's there to provide them, and they absolutely appreciate that.
Now, are you a medical professional?
No, I'm not.
So what caused you to kind of get into the healthcare side of this thing?
Oh, it was because that was how I was first drawn. I saw the needs of kids that needed medical attention and couldn't get it in their home country, and kids that were dying because they didn't have an antibiotic that they needed, not just because they needed to have a surgery. It was kids that would die from an infected tooth. I mean, something that irrelevant that is so relevant. And so I tackled the easier things first, bringing the kids to the United States for help they couldn't get there. And then it grew into something much bigger that I had never planned. You know, I looked for volunteers who might help me down there instead of bringing the kids to the United States. And in 1985, started putting together medical teams. And that grew, and I'm convicted that people want to make a difference. A lot of times they just don't know how to make a difference, and they don't know where to start. And so when we opened the door, the floodgates came. It was just a phenomenal thing that people found something that worked. We work, and I'm proud of that. And we've been accepted there, and the community loves us. And
so I assume your partnerships with different organizations outside of Guatemala back here is real important. So Prompt has become one of these partners for you, a phenomenal partner on top of that. So why would an organization like Prompt get involved with something like this?
It's good business. We have products and services that is good welfare for all involved. We have equipment, for instance, that we can no longer use in the United States because of expiration dates. So we like to send them to Hearts in Motion, and they can use them to service their people in Guatemala.
So you've been the beneficiary, or your organization has been the beneficiary of some of this equipment. Are there other partners here in this region?
Absolutely. A lot of the medical centers in the area help us with, and it's not just expired, and expired doesn't mean it's not used.
It's expired within
it's expired
our culture
within our culture, and it's totally usable in another country, and a lot of it is things that we are able to bring down and reuse. And it's sad to me, you know, if we open a lot of times a box of gloves in an operating room, you can't use gloves for the next patient out of that same box, and there's 24 pairs of gloves left in the box. We can take that box and bring it down and be able to use that in Guatemala. And you know, when I first started working at the hospital, I would go there and I would see them with gloves outside on the clothesline drying because they didn't have enough gloves to do a surgery. And I see that kind of thing quite often. So with the supplies that we get from Prompt and from other, physical therapy groups here in the United States donate walkers and wheelchairs and things like that, and we bring them down. And
the stuff that we just throw away here.
And hospice is so good to us. If someone has a wheelchair, if a parent passes, we get a lot of supplies that way, and we bring those things down, and we're able to reuse them with people who would never have a chance to have that kind of thing.
So some of our, what it might be to appear to be stupid rules, and some of our throwaway mentality in this country is of great benefit here.
Absolutely.
Do you see some of those other examples of that?
Oh yeah, in fact, I think the donations have been so generous to Karen's organization that she's had to even buy a storage space to handle all this equipment that comes to us. And she has a very good team with a good amount of supplies just as well, just for the generous donations of the local businesses from here.
Now, how often do you do this? How often do you take these trips?
I myself am there about 4 months a year, but we do 32 trips, 32 10-day trips a year. So we're there almost every other week.
Wow, 32, I'm doing the math here.
Yeah,
That
it's
pretty
a
much
lot.
takes up the whole year, right?
It does.
And so you're down there part of the time, and other times you've got other people going.
I have a phenomenal staff, and they come. I send 2 people, it depends on how many people are on a trip, but we always have staff from the United States down that complement the staff that we have down there. And it's pretty incredible, the whole operation.
So your office is in Munster, then?
Yes, it
you
is.
You operate out of Munster. So is Prompt going to be sending more people on these trips? Is that
Absolutely.
the plan?
Absolutely. Well, I want to go myself again, actually.
There you go.
I know what I'm doing now.
So the 2 young women that went,
Yes.
they are, what's their position at Prompt?
They are EMT staff working with a paramedic crew, so their medical knowledge is probably better than mine because I pretty much sit in an office all day long, even though I am a certified EMT. I think that's probably where I was concerned of my skill level, but that was not a concern at all.
So what did those young women do? Were they doing training?
Yeah, pretty much our jobs were to train somewhat in remote villages. We would go to the midwives, and I believe Guatemala law says they really can't be a midwife. So we produced a program where they could deliver babies called Helping Babies Breathe, and it assisted them to get a certification by the Ministry of Health for the country of Guatemala.
So I would assume in these villages, there's like no one with medical training.
There's very few people.
So
a lot of times they have an auxiliary nurse at a small clinic, and the clinics that they have, you can be seen, but then they don't have the medicine that you need. So.
Wow. So what do you feel has been maybe the biggest accomplishment Hearts in Motion has made through these 31 years?
The biggest accomplishment? Well, we have a lot of different programs, but I think one of 2 things, let me say this. I think the greatest accomplishment is seeing the changes in the lives of the people who participate in the trips. And the older I get, I realize that it's not about changing Guatemala, it's about changing the people who come down and serve, because it gives people the opportunity to see that you can make a difference. And without giving myself more credit than I'm due, it was my vision that started this, and now we have a lot of people that come down, and it's a phenomenal feeling to see my vision lived out through the lives of all these people who are getting excited about helping other people.
How has it changed you?
I think it changed me to see what others don't have. We have so much here. We have absolutely no idea how much we have. Yet we take our medical care for granted.
But how did that change you, you think? Will it change you, cause you to do anything differently than you've done in the past, you think?
Yes, I think I'm not going to take what we have for granted. Seeing those who have absolutely nothing, you really start understanding what you have and be very, very thankful for it.
So where's this organization going into the future?
I hope it just continues to expand. We've been working of late with more universities because my goal, again, is I'm touching my 60s.
Surely not.
Thank you. I want to get younger kids involved and keep this going for another 30 years. That's my goal. And giving kids, the opportunity to find purpose, because you can find purpose in helping others. And
So if someone wants to get involved with this organization, Hearts in Motion, Munster, Indiana, you have a website, I take it?
yes, I do.
And
It's
it's
heartsinmotion.org.
pretty simple,
It's
isn't it?
pretty simple.
Pretty simple. So, and you don't have to be a medical professional.
You do not.
Obviously, as demonstrated here.
Correct.
By a rusty old EMT,
Right.
Who still can be a Sherpa.
Absolutely.
So anybody who wants
You
to do
can
this
be
can do
8
it.
to 80 years old. We have our own nutrition centers. We have an orphanage. You can come and rock babies. You can, if you're a fireman, you can help us train firemen. You can be a medical professional. You can be a housewife. You can be a real estate agent. It doesn't matter. We can find something for you to do.
So you're always looking for more people to be involved.
Absolutely. More people to change.
More people to change. So this is so much about changing some of us here.
Our ideas about what's important in life and what life is, and breaking down cultural barriers, and teaching people that there's more things alike about us than there are different. And
Well, I love the noble calling here and the passion that you have for this, and the wonderful opportunity. You just keep smiling through this whole thing. I can tell it really touched you.
It does. It does.
And the deep passion you have for this really is making a difference with people in the world. And I thank both of you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
And for your organization. Thanks for being here today.
thank you so much for having us.
Sure. Last week in my editorial, I challenged our viewers by asking if we insulated and isolated ourselves from problems in the world. This week's show highlighted people who are going into the world and making a difference. They are shining examples of those who don't ignore problems but face them head on. I would like to have all of you consider where you could be helping. Many of you probably already are, so here is my challenge. Where is there a problem that is outside your comfort level, a little more complex than your understanding, or appears to be beyond your ability to assist? The task I place before you is to consider some problem that falls in one or more of the previously stated categories. Most of us help where we can and with what we have to offer. In no way am I taking away from the needed contributions that you are making now. I just ask for you to look at something that might be a little tougher to take on. There are few people who tackle the really difficult issues requiring extensive resources, a more dedicated effort, or may require us to go to places that are difficult to reach. Go into the world and explore the possibility of your involvement in some way. You might be surprised what you discover. It is a stretch, but I would be interested to hear your stories of stepping beyond what seemed impossible or improbable to do. Tell me about your experience or plan to make a bigger difference in the world. You may find that it makes a bigger difference in you. We really appreciate each week when you take time to watch this show on Lakeshore Public Television. Your thoughts and comments are welcome. Please send them to our email or reach us through our website, both of which are listed on your screen. You can view previous Lakeshore Focus shows through the website. Click on the TV tab, scroll down to This Face, and find an episode that intrigues you. Join us next week at the same time for another Lakeshore Focus. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a positive difference in our world today.